What's going on, everybody? RJ Ochoa here from SB Nation's bloggingtheboys.com. Hope all is well wherever you are. We hope you're happy, safe, healthy, and I trust that you are happy because the floodgates have been open. That's right. As of Friday afternoon, the Dallas Cowboys were the only team in the NFL that had yet to sign an external free agent. That's right. Every single one, 31 of 32, had found a way to bring in a new player onto their roster. The Dallas Cowboys, as we all know, love to focus, love to prioritize their own. We'd seen them re-sign guys. Obviously, Dalton Schultz got the franchise tag. Michael Gallup, Noah Brown, Malik Hooker, Jeremy Sprinkle, Jake McQuaid, Dorrance Armstrong. The list goes on and on. We are tracking it for you, by the way, at bloggingtheboys.com. But you have to add players at a certain point. That time comes, and the Dallas Cowboys broke the dam on Friday evening, just as everybody was settling in for their dinner, etc. Thank you, Dallas Cowboys, for making us work after hours. First things first, the Dallas Cowboys got on the board their first free agent signing, James Washington, wide receiver, formerly of the Pittsburgh Steelers, second-round draft pick in 2018, actually taken two receivers ahead of Michael Gallup. Only DJ Chark separated them. I love this move for the Cowboys. I'm not going to tell you the Cowboys are going to win the Super Bowl all of a sudden, but we knew that they had a need. They traded away Amari Cooper. Yes, they did bring back both Michael Gallup and Noah Brown. CeeDee Lamb is expected to take a step, become the top receiver on the team. We'll see what Simi Fehoko has to offer, but they also lost Cedric Wilson. James Washington is a surefire deep threat. That's kind of what his wheelhouse was in Pittsburgh, but the problem has been for him ever since 2018 when he was drafted, finding stability at the quarterback position. Even the offensive coordinator in Pittsburgh hasn't been great. That whole situation for the last couple of years, all credit to Mike Tomlin for building a team that has found a way to succeed no matter what. A lot of defensive success in Pittsburgh. Shout out to TJ Watt, of course. But James Washington hasn't really been in an opportunity where he can thrive. We know that Dak Prescott is one of the best deep ball throwers in the NFL. We've seen Michael Gallup benefit from that, obviously. James Washington, a different number 13, can't wear that number now, is the latest one to join this roster. Very exciting. Again, not something that is really going to knock your socks off, but we know that the Cowboys approach free agency from the perspective of adding at positions of need so that they do not ultimately end up with nothing if they don't address the position in the draft. The Cowboys, of course, have had this need at wide receiver, and they bring in somebody in James Washington who, through his 4 seasons, has 114 receptions, 11 touchdowns, averages that 14.3 yards per reception. Again, bit of a deep threat. 1,600 yards, 1,629, but again, it's hard to properly contextualize who James Washington is, or rather could have been, because of the situation in Pittsburgh. So, like I said, the Cowboys, if you've been following this team for a long time now, you know that they look at their weakest positions. They address those in free agency, not with big-time free agents, but so that they have something, again. They only have one first-round draft pick, right? They can only take one player with the 24th overall pick. They've had a need at wide receiver. That has mildly been addressed with the addition of James Washington. They have a need at left guard. They have a need at right tackle. We'll see what ultimately happens there, but they have had a need at defensive end. Randy Gregory, now a member of the Denver Broncos. We do not have to relitigate that. Von Miller, now a member of the Buffalo Bills. We do not have to relitigate that. Chandler Jones, a member of the Las Vegas Raiders. The Cowboys were not part of the party early on when it came to the edge rushers getting the big money across the league. Some people have held out hope for Zadarius Smith, who at the time of this recording at least is still a free agent. But ultimately the Dallas Cowboys seemingly have gone in a different direction by bringing in Dante Fowler. The Cowboys love to go after former first-round draft picks. We've seen that happen in a number of different ways. Dante Fowler was, of course, the 3rd overall selection back during the 2015 NFL draft. Our own Danny Phantom actually pointed out on Twitter that he was taken 1 pick ahead of Amari Cooper. Dante Fowler, of course, went to the University of Florida, where he worked with Dan Quinn, now Dallas Cowboys defensive coordinator. It was the Jaguars who took Fowler back in 2015, but his career never really got off the ground with the Jaguars, went to the Rams, had a really successful season in 2019, turned in 11.5 sacks, and since then has really kind of had trouble finding that form. Now, he did join up with Dan Quinn and the Atlanta Falcons in 2020, and obviously Dan Quinn is somebody who he trusts. However, Dan Quinn was fired, as we all know, very early in that season as the head coach of the Atlanta Falcons, sat out the rest of that campaign, joined the Cowboys in 2021. Dante Fowler had 4.5 sacks this past season for the Falcons in only 14 games, and they were a team that was struggling, obviously, didn't have an offense that could move the ball. It's not the most, terrible thing in the world. Ultimately, for me and for you, I imagine what this comes down to is Dan Quinn trusts him. And Dan Quinn, if there is anything that we trust on the Dallas Cowboys right now, at the very top of that list, if we go in order, number 1 is clearly Micah Parsons, right? We all agree right there. Number 2 might be Dan Quinn. I mean, it's tough to find something that you believe is more stable throughout the entire organization than Dan Quinn's excellence as the defensive coordinator of this team. So if Dan Quinn signs off on this move, I think we're all inclined to, give him the benefit of the doubt, because if anybody has earned it, it is certainly Dan Quinn. So exciting to see the Cowboys starting to get in on this action. Again, they were the last team to add an external free agent, but they now have 2. They have seemingly heard our cries. But speaking of 2, the Dallas Cowboys did have 2 internal moves that they made on Friday, 2 players who they did re-sign. The first of them, linebacker Leighton Vander, of course, the team's first-round draft pick back in 2018, that same draft class that now featured Cowboys wide receivers James Washington and Michael Gallup. But the Cowboys took Leighton in the first round of that draft, and a year ago, just a couple of days after drafting Micah Parsons, the Cowboys chose to decline Leighton's 5th-year option, which made 2021 a contract year for Leighton. It was an okay season. The most important and most impressive thing was that Leighton stayed healthy for the entire thing, including the playoff game, but not necessarily a campaign that led to anybody on the open market being willing to pay him. At least that's obvious by the fact that he signed a 1-year deal with the Dallas Cowboys up to $3 million, the worth of it, obviously. And the Cowboys have gone down this path before, not a lot, but one time. Morris Claiborne, their 2012 first-round draft pick. Again, 5th-year option is a part of rookie contracts for those first-rounders. They declined Morris Claiborne's 5th-year option entering the 2015 season, the year that Dante Fowler was drafted. See how everything comes full circle. And he re-signed with the Cowboys. Morris Claiborne did, just like Leighton Vander. After a 4-year first-round rookie contract, re-signed on a 1-year deal. Mo Claiborne did leave after that 2016 season when the Cowboys lost their entire secondary in free agency. And we'll see what happens with Leighton Vander. But it's rare that a first-round pick gets their 5th-year option declined and returns to the team on a 1-year deal after. But the Cowboys, if they are going to float Micah Parsons around, play him as a pass rusher, who knows what's going to happen. Dante Fowler, again, at least gives them some options. They have re-signed Dorrance Armstrong, as mentioned, but they need depth. They need stability at the linebacker spot for when Micah Parsons isn't there. And the fact that Leighton's deal is only worth up to $3 million doesn't necessarily preclude them from making another move, maybe a Bobby Wagner. I mean, maybe that's getting your hopes up a little too high, but the Cowboys did just make back-to-back external free agent moves, so we do live in some crazy times. Either way, I like this move. It's not an expensive one. It's the kind of move you have to make, the kind of move that you have to have with, as far as stability and depth is concerned. Leighton's a fine player, so for cheap money like that, totally worth it. Last thing, actually, it's a busy day for the Cowboys. We've had a lot of days with no real activity except internal things. Luke Gifford, linebacker down the depth chart for the Cowboys, coming back on a 1-year deal. If it isn't obvious, the Cowboys love themselves some 1-year deals. Again, a necessary thing. So Luke Gifford back in the fold. The Cowboys linebacker group is a very interesting one. We'll certainly have all of our attention on Jabril Cox as he returns from injury. But the Cowboys now have some options. And again, they're protecting themselves for what does not happen come draft weekend, because we know that the Cowboys believe in their ability to draft, but they have to plug holes so that if they do not get X, they are protected by having it by way of free agency. Do we wish it would have been happening a little bit earlier in free agency? Of course, but they are finally starting to get in this game, so it's exciting to see. We'll be tracking it all for you here on the Blogging the Boys YouTube channel, so make sure you do subscribe. Make sure you, of course, check out bloggingtheboys.com, the Blogging the Boys podcast network, where we have multiple shows every single weekday. We have shows on the weekend. We never stop because the Dallas Cowboys never stop. It is our goal. It is our mission. It is our distinct honor to provide you with Dallas Cowboys coverage. So, my name's RJ Ochoa. You know me, of course, from throughout the Blogging the Boys universe. You can follow me on Twitter or Instagram at RJ Ochoa. My DMs are open. You can always shoot me an email if you prefer that, rj.ochoa@sbnation.com. If you want, you can leave a comment here, and I'll get to those as well. So, happy St. Patrick's Day weekend. The Dallas Cowboys, they got a couple of new players. That's exciting. Thanks for joining us, everybody. See you next time.